Okay, I'm hoping that the chat will go ahead and reconnect here. Because I see I have 7 people. I don't know if I have chat. It says disconnected. Unable to connect to chat. Please try again later. Okay, let's see if this will reconnect. Oh, come on. Okay, I think it might be. Oh man, I'm a hot mess today. It's a Sunday. I'm Suzanne Titkemeyer. I'm here in my sewing room. I used to write for Pathos for almost 10 years. Now I just do my own thing. It's a Sunday, a heathen Sunday. I'm not going to church. The pastor's out with COVID. His wife is out with COVID. Everybody else is out with COVID there. So we're staying home because my husband was exposed to COVID last week. Turns out neither one of us have COVID. Guess what we have? The flu. Okay. I want to jump in here and talk about Katie Joy up top. Why? Because there's been a couple of people that have been talking about a fundraiser that she had back almost 4 years ago when her son had to have open heart surgery. They're trying to say that the fundraiser shows that she's a scammer. Well, I'm just going to come right out and say it. I knew her then and talked to her then quite a bit about her son's surgery, and it was a real deal. And I don't see anything in this world wrong with having a fundraiser to do, to take care of some of the expenses, because even with insurance, even with state insurance, you're still going to have to pay something. I looked it up this morning after taking a look and seeing these people were saying this about the fundraiser. The average open heart surgery in America costs $76,000. That's before insurance. And if insurance picks up 85%, you're still left owing a pretty healthy chunk of change. And even if you're not left owing that sort of thing, there are always those weird little things you're going to have to buy to be in the hospital or to leave the hospital. I remember when my husband fell down and broke his shoulder here, and he had to have pins put in his arm. I had to go out in the shops, and this was Easter weekend where everything closes in Costa Rica, and get him a pair of flip-flops because he couldn't bend to tie shoes. And I had to get a pair for me because I broke my shoes while in San Jose. I broke my pair of shoes I was wearing and I couldn't wear them. So I had to get 2 pairs of flip flops. I had to get him one of those shirts that you put on that buttons up the front in 3 or 4 sizes too big because he could not pull on a t-shirt over all his appliances. And I ended up buying plane tickets back to Tamarindo at about $80 each, I think. Except we got to the airport and they weighed him and they doubled his ticket price. So there was that. So I guess my point is there's all these other expenses connected with when you go to the hospital and you have surgery and stuff. Doesn't mean that somebody is deliberately trying to scam when they have a fundraiser for the incidentals. I think we should give Katie Joy a pass on that. It was a very stressful time. I remember her PMing me from the hospital and showing me pictures of her son, Vaughn. We really need to leave anything to do with Vaughn alone. And I don't think that fundraiser was an attempt to scam. It was an attempt to defray those horrible expenses that we have when we have people in the hospital. It was a fundraiser called Hope for Vaughn's Heart. And apparently it was successful. Vaughn's Heart was doing a lot better the last I heard, except that now she's making noise about that again. Who knows? So anyway, go after Katie Joy for legitimate things. Go after her for stuff like calling Sophie Long a brat. Or she had that crotch goblins merchandise. I mean, that's pretty tacky. She was calling the cops on the lady at the free birth group that was having her baby outside. Whoops, throwing my notebook. Those are legitimate reasons to call to call somebody out and say, "Hey, you're not doing right." Or if they're using obvious lies on their lives, or something like somebody claiming that they're being extorted just because somebody else is going to sue them for lying about them. Those are things that are all worth calling somebody out and saying, hey, that's just not right. Stop doing that. The KJ Truther community really has to stay away from Vaughn and concentrate on the real crimes and misdemeanors. And I say crimes and misdemeanors loosely. Yeah, I don't really want to say anything more than that, except stay away from Vaughn. Katie's right about that. Vaughn needs to be completely off the table. He does. He didn't ask to be born in that family. He didn't ask to have heart problems. He didn't ask any of that. So there's that. Okay, I wanted really to talk about Jill Rodrigues today. I see chat's not working, and I'm sorry, but I don't know how to fix that. So I'm just going to go ahead and rant about Jill. Jill Rodrigues right now and her entire family is in Texas on a vacation. They're staying in this really fabulous house, waterside. And how are they doing that? Well, the house is owned by one of her daughter, Nuri's husband's siblings. Everything about this trip has been grifted. They haven't paid for anything as far as I can tell. They've gone from church to church to church like they always do and do their singing and passing the hat that they do to support themselves part of the year. They did a lot of that on their way down to the house in Texas. And it looks like the house in Texas was gifted for the week to Nuri and Nathan for a baby moon, apparently. But it looks like Jill horned in on that. This is so typical of Jill. This is what Jill does. But here's what I'm going to say. As much as Jill seems to do these grifting things, and this is just my opinion, it's an opinion, don't take it as gospel fact, but this is what I have learned from being quiverful and being part of that whole world and that whole evangelical thing that they're doing, the evangelical, quiverful, fundamentalists, the fundagelical movement. Grifting is a way of life in quiverful. And what do I mean by that? Have a little sip, Crystal Light, and I'll explain. Vicki Garrison and I have talked about this quite a bit, actually. When you're part of the whole quiverful movement, one of the things that you're attempting to do is to live on one income, since you're not allowed to work, even though a lot of women like Vicki had gigs where they were actually helping the husband out so that the family could have money. Or, like me, I was off to the side doing an internet thing to make money. I was doing websites for churches at that time and not working in an office that much because it was so frowned upon. I actually put my work life aside for quite a while to do all these side gigs because it was so frowned upon and quiverful to work. I just realized my glasses were extremely blurry. So you got Jill and you got all these other moms. One of the things that you do is you think that you got God's favor, and one of the parts of having God's favor is you beg. Vicki and I have talked about this too. You always ask for a discount. You plead, beg, cry if you have to. You try to get as much free stuff as you can because you're living on one income. You're seeing everybody else living large, and here you are with 10 trillion kids living, pinching pennies beyond pinching, maybe not feeding your children, maybe feeding them an entirely starchy menu that you can only get at the Dollar Tree. You do what you have to do, and some of that involves a whole lot of grifting and begging. We've talked many times to us about the many times we begged for discounts buying things. I remember begging for discounts buying things all along with when I bought furniture. And one time when I bought a new washer and dryer, and it worked out that they damaged the dryer. They dented the steel on the receiving floor. I begged for it and got a big discount. So that really becomes part of your MO. It's not just pinching the pennies because you're living on the one income. It's actively looking for those times when you can get something for free or damn near free. And that means crawling the sales lists on Facebook and everywhere else, Craigslist. So many times And I look back upon that now, and I'm kind of like disgusted that I ever did that in the first place. But that is really what they do. And that's really part of what they teach. All you really have to do is read through some of the penny pinching methods that you see in some of the fundamentalist websites to realize. I got such a kick out of Mrs. Midwest. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. She's a newer fundamentalist, trying to be a media influencer, I guess, a social media influencer. She, every single day, see, I'm exaggerating. Don't take that to the bank. She would show up and show these wonderful thrift store finds. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the thrift store. My Coach purse that I'm currently using, I paid $5 for at the thrift store. And the only thing wrong with it was it had a little dirt on the outside that I managed to clean off right away. I love that. I still love thrifting. But she took it to an extreme I've never seen, going on days when the various tags for various prices would be the lowest. I've seen that too. I've seen people take advantage of that. And I've seen stuff happen like our church used to have like a get together thing after church where they would put out snackles. They'd do snackle boxes, I guess I call them snacks, like kind of cheese, vegetables, cookies, all sorts of things like that. I guess an early fundamentalist charcuterie board where they would do that every Sunday, and I would see the same children, the same super thin children come up and just load their plates. It got so bad when I was there that we had to actually make a rule and set adults first, children second. Because if we did not do that, the thin children of some of the people who weren't maybe feeding their children that well would show up and just destroy the board. I learned to pack 3 times the food that I thought would be needed because of those poor kids, because they actually did apparently need the calories. And that's not too uncommon, especially where you have families where the mother is so controlling that she controls every bite of food that goes in the child's mouth in an attempt to keep them thin. We see that pretty frequently too. We also see families where they're on such a tight budget that it's like beans and rice for almost every meal. There's so many varieties of that going on in Quiverful and Fundytown that you really have to have some compassion on those kids and just feed them. There's just no other way. And their parents look at it as free lunch for the children. I've been told that a number of times. What's the big deal if my kid eats an entire pack of cookies? It's a free lunch for my child. It's freely offered by the church. So even living on one income and trying to do all this stuff, there are still so many things. And a lot of these same people you would see at the conferences, they would be spending the big ticket conference ticket, might be $150. They would go to every vendor around and buy their stuff, usually at a discount, not at full price. So it's a matter of priorities. I also knew one fundamentalist family that lived on a tight budget where the husband had pizza every weekend. They went to Pizza Hut. They went out, whatever the husband wanted, all the rentals, all this, all the movie rentals. And the kids wore patch jeans from wherever. And the wife and the kids, there was not one penny spent towards their support, hardly at all. But the husband was living large. That's another thing in Quiverful that I need to talk about someday, is the petty dictator king aspect of patriarchy. Patriarchy, the most hated thing in the world, the thing that I think sucks, because all the good Christian patriarchs I got to know were weak, petty little men. It seems to be something that attracts weak, petty little men. And I'm talking about you, Larry Solomon. It seems to attract these guys that don't really have anything else going on in their lives. So they decide they're going to be good patriarchs. They're going to put women and children in their place. They're going to protect the kingdom, all of that. And you're just rolling your eyes going, really? Really? You really think your wife's going to obey you on that? Dude. And a lot of it seems to be with these guys' sex. That seems to be the heart of a lot of these theologies and crazy things these guys come up with. So anyway, this is going to be a quick one. I'm going to go because there's no chat to interact with you guys. I don't know what's going on with YouTube, but it is what it is, as they say. And so we're going to go. But again, like I said, remember, criticize Katie Joy for legitimate things. If you're part of the KJ Truther community, don't stoop to criticizing her over Vaughn. Please, please. When you do that, you just play right into her narrative that we're all a bunch of lunatics who are threatening her child. She claims that everybody's sending death threats to her son. I don't see how that happens. I've never talked to anyone as part of the community that didn't have anything but compassion for the child because of his various health problems and because of who his parents are. So that's all. Don't bully or harass anyone that I mentioned in this video, please. That's not cool. Don't take it real life. Don't call social services on Jill or Katie Joy. None of that, please. We need to remain above all of that, and we don't need to be going real life with any of this crap. But you have a great week, Sunday and a week, and going in. I may or may not be around much next week. My husband, the company that he has been teaching English for a little bit recently, they want a big contract to teach English to a large number of students throughout the Guanacaste area. So this coming week, if he can kick his flu, and I hope he can, I'm feeling way better, but he's not. He's going to be going around and interviewing kids at all kinds of far-flung places from us, like Santa Cruz, Nicoya. Believe that there's some kids near Liberia he's going to be talking to, maybe even as far away as Cañas or La Cruz. So he's going to be busy, and that means I'm going to have to take up the slack of the crap he does. Like, I have to go pick up a friend at the airport on Tuesday, make a Price Mart run then, make a Costco Price Mart run to the bank, do something in Liberia. I have my things I have to go do too. So, because I'm going to be on my own and picking up the slack here, I may not be around as much. Real life and truths, as it should. Real life, and that's what I was going to say. Don't spend all your time online. I'm trying to spend less and less and less time online, and I've been better about it lately. And it really makes a difference in how what your stress levels feel like. For me, it does. I feel very unstressed when I'm not online very much at all, except I'm feeling freaking freezing. That was the problem when I came to visit America. I'm so used to weather in the high 90s that's humid that if I go into a room and the AC is like 72, I've got to put on a sweater and do like this. I'm freezing. So I have to take my frozen self in the other room and put on a sweater because I just ran the AC in here for like 10 minutes. And this tiny little sewing room has turned into an ice box. Okay, love you guys. See you later.